up, they'll call me freedom, just like a waving flag. So wave your flag.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dolores Franklin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to tell you my story. My story may not be as important as your story, but I'm here to talk about mortgage companies. When you've come very close to losing your home, when you try to work with the mortgage companies and they look at you and they downgrade you and they get very nasty with you, it's very hard to take. I was in a situation where all I was asking them to do was put together my two largest bills, mortgage and taxes. They didn't want to work with me. I cried, I thought, and I cried some more. And then finally I said, I can't deal with this anymore because I'm going to be jumping off a bridge if I have to keep dealing with these people that don't want to deal with me. So what I had to do was create another bill, a bill for a lawyer. It took one letter and one telephone call for them to stop addressing me at all. It was such you just don't know. Everything was just lifted off of my shoulders when I had someone who went to bat for me. And they would tell me how nasty they were to them. So we need to do something about that. And I'm here this afternoon to say we need to get out and vote for Hillary Clinton. I also want to say that we need to be careful who we put in office. She needs people to work with her, not work against her. She needs our support. Thank you. She needs our support. So let's get out and vote. I hope to see some of you where I work at the polls in November. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Union County College President Dr. Margaret McMenamin.
On behalf of our boards, our chairman of the board, Vic Ritchell, the faculty, staff, administrators, and nearly 30,000 students who come to Union County College every year for an opportunity for a better life, I want to welcome everyone to our Cranford campus. And we want to offer a special welcome back to our special guest, President Bill Clinton. About 25 years ago, we in New Jersey learned about a man from Hope, Arkansas. That man became our 42nd president of the United States. And while campaigning, he reminded us that the economy was the primary concern of all voters. He was the people's president, down to earth, with a personal understanding of the challenges faced by working class folks. He never forgot his roots. And during his 2 terms of office, President Clinton balanced the budget, eliminated the deficit, and turned a sluggish economy around. Nearly 8 years ago, President Obama similarly began leading our nation out of that Great Recession. It was his courageous leadership that helped to save the American automobile industry, that prevented a collapse of our housing market and saved the American economy. We're here today to hear about how Secretary Hillary Clinton will continue to build on the work of President Barack Obama to further strengthen our economy, how Hillary Clinton will continue to fight for working class families, to fight for the middle class, and to fight for college students as well. At Union County College, our mission, transforming our community one student at a time. We give everyone the opportunity for a high-quality, affordable college education. And you know what? Hillary knows that's important. She understands why that's important. And Hillary has a vision for America in which education, college education, is attainable for everyone. She's got a new college compact, and that will ensure that the cost of higher ed is not a barrier to college, and that debt doesn't hold America back. Hillary knows that our nation can't allow the cost of college to be a barrier to access to quality higher education for responsible and qualified students. She knows that student loan debt is going to cripple our students, our graduates, and our nation. So she's going to ensure that no student has to borrow money for tuition, books, fees when they attend a four-year state college. She says students at community colleges are going to get free tuition, and we love that here. But she's also going to hold colleges and universities responsible to keep costs down and to improve outcomes, to ensure that everyone who comes here, everyone who invests in college, has the opportunity to leave with a degree. So to hear more about Hillary's plan for America, we are delighted that President Clinton has chosen Union County College for this event. We're honored to have him back on campus. So please join me in welcoming our friend, our advocate, President Bill Clinton.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, first of all, President McMenamin, for welcoming me here. I want to thank Dolores Franklin, the AARP president who spoke, and Congressman Albiol-Sierras, thank you, and all the other elected officials who are here supporting Hillary. And I want to thank the young people here who are students. Union County College is the oldest community college in New Jersey. And so I want to start by what I try to say every time I'm at a community college. I was the first president ever to speak at a community college graduation ceremony. And it's because I think America would work so much better if it worked like a community college. Think about it. It's inclusive, flexible, empowering, and future-oriented. When's the last time you heard political talk like that? There's a reason why this has been such a crazy political year. All over the world, there is stagnant economic growth, stagnant incomes, rising inequality, and deep arguments over what to do about our increasing diversity, not just in America. The problem is that even though after inflation 80% of us have not had a pay raise since the crash, America is doing way better than any other big economy on earth. We're growing faster, we're producing more jobs. You heard the president say that President Obama saved the automobile industry. We have the strongest science and technology base. We have the youngest, most diverse workforce in the world. He's done a far better job than he gets credit for sometimes because we're not used to 10-year reconstruction projects. We have no idea how much damage was done to this country when the financial collapse occurred. So what this election presents us with is the same choice people are facing around the world, except the consequences will affect us and the rest of the world. Because people will be looking at us. They know we're the best positioned country for the future. If I were 20 years old again, and I would like to be, And I got one of those magic lanterns, and a genie came out and said, you can live wherever you want to live in 30 years, but you have to decide right this second. I would pick the United States in a heartbeat. We are in the best position for the future. But to do it, we have to build a future that is inclusive, not divisive. A future which has not only higher incomes, but more upward mobility and less inequality, and one which recognizes our diversity because it's the only way to honor our common humanity. We have been told over and over again in this election, we ought to build a wall against Mexico, we ought to stop the Muslims from coming in, we ought to do all this stuff. Let me tell you something, folks. All those people that want to do that, and one in particular, forget what the real security challenges we face are, economic and physical. The last serious terrorist incident in the United States occurred in San Bernardino, California. Those people were converted over the internet. You can build all the walls you want. You can build a wall across Canada. They got a bunch of foreigners in Canada. You could build a seawall on the Atlantic and a seawall in the Pacific. Now we're in depression. And then you could send the Navy to the Gulf of Mexico to block anybody else and put all the planes in the Air Force up. You could not keep out the social media, which is why I'm really proud that Hillary has been the most outspoken candidate in this race, saying we need all people of all faiths, including Muslims who love freedom and hate terror, to help us prove the American idea can work for the whole world. We've got to do this together. Now, so the case for her is fairly straightforward. She's got the best vision, an inclusive, not divisive America. An America that is oriented toward our future greatness, not trying to reclaim a past that's past and gone. And wasn't so great for some people anyway. Somebody said they're going to make America great again. They need to talk to the people for whom it wasn't so great. And then we need to recognize that white non-college educated Americans have seen great drops in their income, have seen great increases in their unemployment rate, have seen drops in their life expectancy. And they need to be brought along for the future. But they can't live under the illusion that you can reclaim a past, which is just that, past. This country is always about the future. If it weren't about the future, there wouldn't be a single student enrolled in this community college. Not one. And so, she got the best ideas. The national government has a responsibility to create more jobs that pay well, to reduce inequality and increase mobility. It should be done first by focusing on big new investments in infrastructure, clean energy, modern manufacturing, and getting bank loans back to small businesses that create most of the jobs. In New Jersey, Hillary's program should have particular relevance in the following areas. Infrastructure is more than about bridges and roads and ports and airports. There are Flint, Michigan, as Trenton now knows, or Newark, is nowhere near the only place in America where children have elevated lead levels in their blood because of old, rusty pipes. If we took up all those pipes and put down new ones, it could create a zillion new jobs and give every kid in this country a healthy future. She wants to do that. New Jersey needs to finish those 2 tunnels going to New York, and you can't do it. And you cannot do it without greater national investment. Hillary wants to put up 500 million solar panels. Now, in most places, east of the Mississippi, when I say that, people look at me and say, you know, Bill Clinton may be a nice guy, but he's losing it. He thinks he's in California. because most places don't know that New Jersey is the second state in America in terms of the number of solar panels installed. And we have just scratched the surface. I was in eastern Kentucky the other day at Morehead State, which has a special relationship with NASA, where I saw teenagers from eastern Kentucky at the base of coal country making satellites, communication satellites I could hold in my hand that weighed 8 pounds using nano computing power being put in a little box about 1.25 inches cubed. And I asked the young man making, I said, what's that made of? He said, tungsten, does well in outer space. I said, where was it made? He said, right here, I made it with a 3D printer. And then he looked at me and smiled. He said, now, Mr. President, don't let them make fun of your wife for saying we're going to put up 500 million solar panels in 4 years. Actually, I think she's a little low, because in a couple of years, we'll be making them with 3D printers. They'll be so cheap, you won't know what to do. Everybody will have them. They'll be standard issue, and America will be free, and we will grow like crazy. That's what a kid said down there. New Jersey has led the way. One of the reasons Hillary won by so much in New York is that the Bronx, once the symbol of urban decay, is maybe the fastest growing borough in New York City, and they're bringing back manufacturing jobs. Why? Because today you can pay people a lot of money, and labor is not the main cost in manufacturing. It's materials, energy, and transportation. If America has the biggest market in the world, her position is simple. Save the transportation and make the stuff here. But make modern manufacturing the kind of things that will pay good wages and still be competitive in a global marketplace. We've got to do these things. Now, then you got to get away, instead of building walls, you got to get rid of all the walls or hurdles or barriers that exist now. That's what this education program's about. First, she believes every child should have access to preschool. Second, she believes that the federal education dollars for pre-K through 12 should be adjusted, because it's only 7-8% of the total, and all the research shows that the most successful schools in the world and in America spend more money on making teachers better teachers, principals better principals, and making sure the culture of every school fits the kids that are being educated. She's not against standards and testing, but you don't need 5 tests in 5 years from the 3rd to the 8th grade. We need to invest in what will work to give all our kids a good education without regard to their zip code. And on college, the president already said this, but I'll review the bidding. She does favor free community college tuition. She favors free tuition for people in four-year colleges who need it because their incomes are low, and more help for those who need more help. She thinks if people can pay a little, they should. If people need more money, she favors spending a lot of money to give people access to 10 hours a week of work-study income. That will hold down the cost of college and keep tuition costs down if you put more young people to work on the campuses helping to do the work. Then, for people, the idea is that everybody should be able to graduate from college debt-free. Then you got all this debt that's already been accumulated. I actually got a letter from somebody the other day, it's hard to make up, who owes $400,000. Now, it's not unusual for someone who goes all the way through medical school to owe $200,000 or more, but this was a person who kept agreeing to do what you might call hazardous duty in internships and supplies, going to places, all the while the interest rates are piling up and compounding on the debt. So here's what Hillary wants to do. The average college debt is about $25,000, 26, something like that. If you want to get rid of that in a hurry, under her plan, you could do 2 years in an AmeriCorps program and 1 year of any other kind of public service. In addition to your pay, you get $23,500 completely tax-free to throw against the debt. If you can't or don't want to do that, you would be able to turn your college debt into a home mortgage. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everybody in this audience under 30 has a legitimate chance to live to be 100. And in all probability, you will be able to live to be 100 without the threat of Alzheimer's because of progress in all this genome research. So your education just became a longer lasting asset than any house you'll ever live in. You can get a 20 or 30-year mortgage on a house. Hillary thinks you ought to be able to get a 20-year repayment plan on your college debt. Now, what does that mean? First of all, today, one of the disgraceful things in America is that a college loan is the only loan you cannot refinance. I don't know how many homes there are in America where people have refinanced their house sometimes twice since the crash and never been able to refinance their college loans. So first, everybody should be able to refinance. That would save 25 million young Americans an average of more than $2,000 apiece, just refinancing the loan. Then you should be able to repay the loan at no more than 10% of your after-tax income a month. If you borrowed less, you would pay less, of course. Now think what that would mean. Everybody could move out of their parents' house. If you have a job you took just to make the loan payment, but you like one over here that you'd find more fulfilling, and you can't take it today because it pays less, you could take it then because your loan payment would go down. If you always dreamed of starting a small business, you wanted to open an organic bakery or you name it, anything. If you go to the bank today with a college loan, your credit rating's toast, you can't get the loan. You could now, because if, like many people with a small business, your income drops the first year or two, you don't make a lot of money, you wouldn't pay anything on the loan. We could unleash the energies of millions of young Americans just by treating a college loan like the lifetime investment it is in empowering people to make the most of their future. Now, there are lots of other things we ought to do. We've got to finish the work of health care reform. There should be, if the insurance rates keep being too high, or the deductibles and co-pays too high in the private insurance market, in the small business market, Hillary favors offering what I tried to do the first time 15 years ago, a public option. Let people over 55 buy into Medicare, let people under 55 buy into Medicaid at prices they can afford. It doesn't matter if they're a little sicker than the average population, because those pools are so big, they won't affect the government's cost very much. And if the insurance market won't provide affordable insurance so that we can get to 100% of people insured, then the government should do that. It's not very hard. Secondly, we have to pass immigration reform, and it ought to be a top item in the next congressional agenda. And I believe there's a chance the Republicans will vote and work with us on a reasonable immigration reform, because it's crazy. You've got over 16 million people torn up and upset every day, 11.5 million undocumented people, the others either full citizens or here on documentation, living, waiting for the kids to be kicked out of school or the families to be broken up. This doesn't make any sense. And they do more for our economy. They pay taxes, they do things. These are working people. We need to pass that. We also, she believes, need to look at other places. We need to get more women in the workforce, which is why she favors paid leave, equal pay, and affordable child care programs. We got to do that. We need to get workforce participation up, which is why she supported what New Jersey, New York, California, and a few other places have done in adopting a scaled $15 an hour minimum wage, where you start at the places that can afford it now and you phase it in gradually over time. Now, we can do these things, but we have to do them together, which brings me to one final point. We can't exclude people, and we have to know that we have a constitution, a law, a system that can do it. She believes we have to change that Citizens United case, which put a for sale sign on the door of an American democracy. Stop that. She believes that the next president should put people on the Supreme Court, and now that the Republican nominee to be has announced exactly what he's intending to do to the Supreme Court, this election in part is about whether you want a Supreme Court that will protect and expand voting rights or one that will shrink them, one that will protect and expand labor rights and women's rights and gay rights or shrink them, whether you believe that we should be an inclusive democracy or a divided one. And this is really important. If you want to have inclusive prosperity, you got to get rid of the barriers for people. Even if you create the jobs and you leave the barriers, you won't get what you want. So she got the best ideas. And finally, she's the best change maker. There are two things that could keep us from rising after all these years of frustration. One is continued political gridlock in Washington. The other is economic crisis after crisis after crisis around the world. She is the only person who is qualified by reason of experience and accomplishment to do both. Everything, you know, everything she ever got done in Washington when I was president, especially the Children's Health Insurance Program and increasing adoptions out of foster care by 80%, she did with Republican as well as Democratic support. When she was a senator trying to help New York and its first and second responders recover and other victims after 9/11. When she worked on trying to help small manufacturers and little farmers in New York, all over the state, when nobody else was trying to do it, she always had Republican and Democratic support. As Secretary of the State, she negotiated the only thing that survives our attempts to get along with Mr. Putin better, which is a big deal considering Russia's still hanging around in Ukraine. It's called the New START Treaty. It reduces the chances of nuclear war, accidental or intentional, dramatically. She had to get 67 votes in the Senate to ratify that. That's a lot of Republicans. She got them. Same thing was true with the sanctions against Iran, ending a shooting war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, and any number of other things she did. There were always people on the other side who would support what she did. Now, I know they're being mean to her now, but that's their MO. Keep in mind, the theory of the National Republican Party is that government would mess up a two-car parade. So it threatens their whole argument if you got somebody like Hillary who's actually done a lot of things to help people. So if you got somebody who's done a lot of things to help people, you had to find some way to get people to stop thinking about that. And what they find works best is relentless personal attacks, because even if you disprove every single one of them, it winds up hurting you. Some saying, well, why are they being so mean? There must be something there. There is nothing there. All I know is, and this is the last thing I want to say, she is the person who is most likely to break this gridlock so we can grow together and to give us the safety and space from troubles around the world that we need to grow and lead the world away from a lot of this foolishness. You don't want to see us pass all this and still see us held back because the rest of the world is a wreck. You got to have the space for America to grow. So for the first time I can remember, every single solitary person should care about whether the next president is respected and trusted around the world and able to give us the space to grow. We have waited 8 long years to have shared prosperity, to have upward mobility, to have declining inequality. We have waited long enough. And I'm just telling you, this, as a person who's watched her for 41 years, will be actually more than that now, 45 years. We've been married 41 years this October. But look, I had this job. I know what I'm talking about. It is, you've got to understand that we only work in this country when we can all rise together. We only work in this country when we see somebody that looks totally different from us and we say, they're part of our country too. We only work in this country when we believe we can make tomorrow better than today. The reason there's so much road rage in this electorate is there are too many people who look in the mirror every morning and they feel totally disempowered. The opposite of the value of this community college. They look in the mirror and they think every one of my tomorrows is going to be just like yesterday, so we might as well just fight for a bigger piece of a small pie. And everybody that doesn't look like me, think like me, is my potential enemy. That's nuts. It won't work, but it is totally understandable. Because who gets to go to a seminar in economics that tells you why your life is in trouble? All I'm telling you is, I've been doing this all my life. I believe with all my heart we are just this close to being able to all rise together. I believe we are on the edge of determining whether our young people will have a future better, more prosperous, and longer than any generation that ever existed, or we will succumb to this prescription drug and heroin epidemic. We will succumb to this economics of division. We will succumb to this society that's just divided, where the people who disagree with us are our enemies. This is nuts. It won't work. You cannot shut the world out. You cannot turn away from the world. So if you believe we can create future greatness, not engage in a futile effort to recover past greatness, if you believe we have to do it together, and if you believe we all have to rise together, then New Jersey should give Hillary a roaring victory on Tuesday. Thank you, and God bless you.